Last week we left Moses and the Israelites camping at the foot of Mount Sinai, where God gave Moses the 10 Commandments. God had told the people that they were his special people, his treasure. But they had to live life God's way, and the people had agreed and promised to trust God. Well, after that, they packed up their things and they continued their journey. They were in the desert for a long time. In fact, they wandered in the desert for 40 years. And you might wonder why. Well, I'm sorry to say that it was their own fault. They did actually arrive at the land of Israel, but they saw some big people living there who looked a bit scary, so they didn't go in. They ran away. Run away, run away, run away. Run away, run away, run away. Oh no. So they journeyed through the desert for 40 years. Sometimes they met baddies. Well, that wasn't easy. Sometimes they went round and round in circles. How silly. And then they started moaning again. They moaned at poor old Moses. Hey, Moses, what's going on? Moses, you've brought us out of Egypt into the wilderness to die. Moses, we're fed up with eating manna. We want some real bread. Manna is boring. Then they started moaning against God. Well, God, he called us to be his special people. He said we were his treasure. But here we are, wandering around in the desert with boring, horrible food, and we are fed up. But you see, as I've already told you, it was their own fault. God led them to the promised land, but they wouldn't go in. So God got a bit cross with the Israelites. He had to teach them a lesson. In the campsite, God sent poisonous snakes. Some people got bitten by the poisonous snakes. Ow! 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 Some people died. Ow! 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 That made people remember that they weren't living God's way. They certainly weren't trusting God at all. So they went to Moses. Moses, we've sinned. We didn't trust you. Actually, Moses, we didn't trust God. Moses, we've sinned and we're really sorry. Please, Moses, pray to God. Pray that he takes the snakes away. So Moses prayed to God. Dear God, please take the snakes away. But you see, God didn't want to just take the snakes away. He wanted to teach the people to trust him. So this is what he told Moses to do. Moses, make a statue of a snake and put it on a pole. So Moses made a snake out of bronze. And he put it on a pole in the middle of the camp. And God said, if anyone is bitten by a snake, they must look at the bronze snake and they will live. But if they do not look at the bronze snake, they will die. Now, it wasn't a magic snake. Of course it wasn't. There's no such thing as a magic snake. But it was the way that God wanted them to learn to trust him. So the snakes didn't go away and people did get bitten. Ow! 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 Look at the bronze snake. Oh yes, I'm looking at the snake and oh yes, that's much better. The people that trusted God and looked at the snake were all right. But the people who did not trust God were not all right. Ow! 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 Look to the bronze snake. Well, that's just silly, isn't it? I'm not looking at a bronze snake. Just silly, very silly. And those people died. Many, many years later, Jesus, the Son of God, was having a conversation with a man called Nicodemus. Jesus, Nicodemus asked, "How can I be friends with God?" Jesus answered him, "Nicodemus, do you remember what happened to our ancestors with the snake in the desert?" Yes, I do remember. The people were going to die unless they looked at the snake lifted up on the pole. That is right. And one day I too will be lifted up on a wooden cross. And just as anyone who looked at the snake in the desert was forgiven and made friends with God again, the same goes for anybody who trusts in my death on the cross. So there we go. Jesus tells us that just as the people in the desert had to look at the bronze snake to be saved, we must look at him, Jesus, to be saved. We aren't being saved from a snake bite, but from our sins. That's all the things that we do wrong. Jesus died on the cross to take the punishment for all the things that we do wrong, so that we don't have to. But we do have to look to Jesus, raised up on the cross, and follow him. So, the important things to remember from this week's Bible story are this. We do have to trust God, and we do have to live God's way, follow his laws. Do you remember the 10 Commandments that we learnt about last week on the tablets of stone? The Israelites didn't make a very good job of that, and God had to teach them a lesson. The Israelites had to look up to the snake to show that they were sorry and were trusting God. We have to look to Jesus for forgiveness of our sins and follow him. So now we're going to make our craft to help us remember the story and to help us to tell it to other people.